Barker, welcome back. Turn the
there you go.
Things haven't changed. You
No.
still got to push the on button.
How
Things
you
haven't
doing?
changed.
Did you miss me?
What?
Did you miss me?
No.
No?
Shows never sounded better.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can leave again.
I'm just kidding. You know I missed you.
You did?
Yeah. I mean, it was all alone here.
Sounds like Boffo had his work cut out for him with all the guests and
Yeah,
You know?
he did okay.
Yeah.
He did okay. He managed to make sure that I wasn't, that I was here just alone physically, but that there were,
sounds like you got it done.
the usual Blair support group.
Yep.
So all was good. The Jays and Twins start a 3-game series tonight at the Rogers Center. It's cricket night at the ball. I was going to wear my West Indies cricket jersey.
Why didn't you?
I don't. It's a little
Small? He can say it, man. It's okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say it was small. Let's just say that it was
Medium.
was form fitting.
Yeah, been there. Got some suits like that.
Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
so I'm wearing it in because it is cricket night at the ballpark. So I'm wearing it in in spirit or whatever. Twins are awfully good. This is a tough stretch. We had Dan Shulman on yesterday. Twins for 3, Orioles, the Rays. This is where whatever rubber's going to meet the road, the rubber meets the road these next 9 games. I think that we'll either have a team close to 500, a team a little over 500. We're going to see some changes around here. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think it's about time for guys to get their head out of their ass and start doing things that they're supposed to be doing. Like, it's I think deep enough into the season.
You're talking about the front office too, or what?
I mean, whatever. Like right now, front office, can they make a big enough move to give them an impactful bat that can hit in the middle of the order? Probably not. So it is what you got, right? You kind of sort of showing up every single day, and I think the last game that we saw sort of is showing you that they can do it. Like it's not going to be the easiest of things, right? The starting pitcher has to be almost great, and hopefully the closer is a little bit easier getting through a ninth inning than some of the other games that he's tried to pitch. But I think offensively, right? It's time. Like 38th game into the season, guys that can hit. It's time for them to start turning the corner. It's time for guys in the bullpen stop hanging split fingers. It's time to start throwing more strike ones. It's time for guys to start. If you're coming out of the bullpen to get a lefty out, get the lefty out. Like I think it's time now that they start putting a little bit more pressure on these guys to when they hand the ball to them or they're walking up to the plate with the bat. Let's see better. I think 38 games into the season, I think we can ask that now. No.
Oh, yeah, without question.
Yeah.
Without question. And we mentioned this Twins team that the Jays are facing tonight. It's been awfully good. They won 11 in a row. They lost. Now they've won 5 in a row, I think. If I'm not mistaken, they just came off a series. Against the Seattle Mariners where they beat the best pitchers the Mariners run out. And the Mariners starting pitching is awfully good. But, the Twins are just
yeah, they're confident.
There's something going on.
You got a couple of guys in the lineup who are really good. You got 3 guys in the bullpen who are, when they're getting the ball, they're striking everybody out. Like
they beat, by the way, just so we know, they've won 5 in a row. They beat Castillo, Kirby, and Logan Gilbert to win 3 games in that series.
Yeah, I mean they won 8 out of their last 10. They're scoring runs early in games, take pressure off the starting pitcher. The starter's giving them enough innings to turn it over to a bullpen who's striking everybody out. That they have a little mojo off the field when it comes to rubbing a hot dog and some kind of
a sausage. They're rubbing a sausage.
Yeah, it's like it's just the littlest of thing, but hey, if it's working for them and they're buying into that's what they need before they walk to the plate, rub that thing. You can't rub it anymore. That's what I say. There you go. It's like the Jays. The Jays had a team meeting and won. They should have a team meeting until they lose. Continue to have it. Show up every single day, have a meeting until you lose the game. Like sometimes you got to make it as simple and give a bunch of guys something to look forward to. Have a little fun with it.
Yeah, I misspoke, by the way. The Twins have won 5 series in a row. but they did beat.
They won 12 in a row, too. You said 11 in a row. They won 12 in a row. They won 8 out of the last. Yeah. You're all over the place there. But,
all right.
Whatever.
12, 11, whatever.
They've won a lot of games. They're a good team right now. They're very confident. They got really good pitching. They got a couple of guys in their lineup who are hitting. Like, they got some things going on now. Again, you look at the 9 games. You mentioned the 9 games. 3 against the Twins, 3 against the Orioles, 3 against the Rays. You're looking finish better than worse, right? Win 5 out of the 9. If you can do that, then you're 22-24. You're going in. You're going to face the White Sox here coming up for a few games. Like, you could start to at least try and get above 500. That's the first thing you want to do, right? Get it to 500, gain a little confidence. Maybe because you get to 500, the guys that matter on your team are starting to hit and getting some big hits. So, for me, it starts with confidence, and we've seen it now. We've seen him do it, go out and face an Aaron Nola, take his best pitches, get a bad one, and hit it hard somewhere. Like, we've seen it. Continue to try and do that, have quality at bats, and hopefully to get a good enough starting pitching. Hopefully, fingers crossed, Yimi Garcia comes back. Like, that's going to be huge, and we will ask John Schneider about that.
That will be the first question I think we asked.
Yeah,
we asked
John That's a big deal, right? They need that 8th and 9th inning guy just to sort of – everybody else now can slot in. Lefties can face lefties, and, you can bring Trevor Richards in, whatever you want to bring him in. And, if you need to use Eric Swanson, you could sort of maneuver around when you want to use him, how much you want to use him. So it'll be huge to get him back.
Yeah, the Twins have got an awful lot going on. Ryan Jeffers has been tremendous. Max Kepler been tremendous.
Yeah.
Edouard Julien has been tremendous. And we talked about this a little bit last week. That whole division, not a laughing stock.
No.
Not a laughing stock anymore.
Bunch of guys above 500 there, right? Yeah. You get off to a good start. Yeah, again, I think the Twinkies sort of the strength of schedule. They were running in some teams they should be beaten up on. They did it. That's how you gain some confidence. You get some guys healthy, you get them confident, and you're sort of running from there. It's not going to be the easiest thing. But now the Jays, I think, see what they see right in front of them, which is a bunch of good teams that they're going to have to do a bunch of good things all at the same time to win, enough. Win more than you lose the next 9 games. You do that, you're 22-24, and you're facing some bad teams, and then maybe you can get to 500, and once you get to 500, then you can maybe, force the front office to maybe do something, add a piece or two.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're kind of in a situation right now. We'll be joined by Thad Levine, by the way, the
awesome
senior VP and GM of the Minnesota Twins in a few minutes. But we're kind of in a situation with the Jays right now where I still think you get the sense that management is, and I'm talking about the baseball people in the front office. I think they're kind of waiting for some kind of direction. I'm not saying I'm a big fan of that, but I think they're waiting for some kind of direction that will come from these that will come from these games. You close your eyes and imagine what happens if this team goes 2-7 or 3-6, and it's possible. It's certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, they got one of the worst offenses in baseball. There's guys in the bullpen right now who shouldn't be pitching. I mean, they're if they don't see what's right in front of them by now. Look, they're 17-20. They're in last place in the American League East. Can you close your eyes and see it getting better? Like, there's going to have to be some guys who would step us. That's my point. Like, this is the 38th game of the season.
Yeah,
dude's hitting 190. That needs to stop. Enough's enough.
Yeah, I think we're not looking necessarily at the same things that the front office is looking at. I keep getting back to this phrase about knowing what's under the hood. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's right. But, absent anything out of the front office, any indication, that's, again, they've gone since April 28th with their best reliever not available. And they've been scared to put him on the IL. It may be one of those things. How you feel? I feel good. I feel better. Not good enough to pitch, but I feel better. I understand he's the best reliever they have, the most effective reliever they have. But, the last time I looked, there are a lot of teams that are contending that are claiming dudes off waivers, that are making moves to address bullpen issues. And the Jays just kind of sat there.
I mean, let's be honest. Off season, if you continued the lineup that you had, this is predictable. It's not.
Yeah, but
it doesn't take a smart person to come on our show or any show.
I'm not talking.
Say this.
I'm not talking about the lineup, Kevin. I'm talking about the matter at hand, which is addressing the fact that you basically forced your manager to manage 7 games without his best reliever. Explain that to me. Explain that how you have a $235 million payroll or whatever it is, and you basically don't have your best reliever. You got the lineup's the lineup. I mean, that's been a long running issue. But you've got to get. You've got to explain to me how that's allowed to happen. I just don't get. Well, go out and get somebody.
Well, good luck.
Well, yeah,
we've been saying that forever about the lineup.
No. I'm talking about. Well, you don't have to trade to address the bullpen. You can go and get somebody off the waiver wire. You know what? You bring in another arm. Bring in another.
Well, they got plenty of arms.
No, well, obviously they don't, because look at what they've been doing at AAA. They've been signing a whole bunch of guys to come down to AAA. Right. Clearly, they don't.
Okay.
Other teams are doing it. Anyhow. We mentioned the Twins are in town for a 3-game series tonight. Thad Levine is Senior VP and General Manager of the Minnesota Twins. He joins us in Blair and Barker. Thad, thanks so much for doing this, of course. I think the big story, I know the first thing I want to know from you is, and I know you're in Minnesota, so do you know, were the Twins able to get their sausage through customs, or did the team, as the rumor in this marketplace today was, is the team gone out and tried to buy local sausage for the home run sausage?
I think when they went through customs, they had to pay a toll, so they had to give a few slices away.
Okay, so we'll find out. We'll do our due diligence in the clubhouse before the game. Again, thanks very much. Mm-hmm. Thanks very much for doing this. It's funny. We were talking before you came on about your whole division is awfully good right now, and you've got a lot of teams that are playing at a really high level. I mean, we saw a couple of those teams come through here and really and play very well against the Jays and have a certain amount of success. It really is. Before we talk about the Twins, it is a tough division this year, isn't it?
Yeah, when we went into the offseason, I think a lot was made of the fact that maybe our division was in large regard rebuilding. And the expectation was that then maybe teams were going to be, a few years away from competing and contending. But I think we took the division very seriously heading into the offseason, and it's proven out to be just that. I mean, the strides that the Kansas City Royals have made are significant. And, we're watching one of the premier players of the game right now, and Bobby Witt Jr. play when we get a chance to play them. He's certainly on pace to be a bona fide MVP candidate this season. Cleveland is always extremely challenging. They seem to get more out of their pitching than most teams do, despite injuries. Their offense has been a little bit better than certainly I think we expected them to be. And Detroit is certainly on the come right now, and they've made a lot of improvements, that team. So I think we agree with you. I think what people had thought was going to be one of the lighter divisions has proven to be one of the tougher ones through the first month of the season.
Dad, we're almost 40 games into the season. I wonder how your organization starts looking at your team 40 games in. How do you guys look at it now?
Guys, one thing, Billy Beane has always been a mentor to me, and one of the things he said to me back when I started my career was you kind of use your first 2 months try to be as patient as you can, continue to build out depth. The next 2 months, you have to make the moves necessary if you're trying to win, to try to win, or if you're trying to build for the future, to build for the future. And then the last 2 months, you kind of sit back and hope for the best based upon what you built. And so I think we're still in that initial phase where we're continuing to build out depth, trying to bolster down for what we think is going to be a very competitive season. But it's been a tale of 2 seasons for the Minnesota Twins so far. We played the first 20 games to a tune of 7-13. Our offense, like so many teams, and I know you guys can relate, got off to a start that was unexpected in terms of really struggling en masse. And I think we found out the only thing more infectious than hitting was not hitting. And our guys really, really struggled out of the stretch. But then the last 16 games, we've miraculously gone 14-2. The pitching has been excellent. Our bullpen has really been strong. It's held down a lot of close leads late, and our offense has come to life. So been a tale of two seasons. I think we're probably somewhere in between those two records. But I think there's been a lot of encouraging signs from our team over the last 3 weeks now.
Should people that don't cover the Twins give more love to Max Kepler?
Without question. Max is such a unique player. He is a five-tool right fielder. We genuinely believe he'd be a well above average center fielder. He just happens to be playing right field for us. I think you guys have a similar situation where you have a few center fielders playing in the outfield for you, and it's such a blessing for our pitching. Between he and Byron Buxton and really almost anyone who we put in left field, most balls that get put in the air get caught by that group of players. And Max had an exceptional second half to last year. He's building off that. He had an injury literally in the first game of the season, fouled a ball off his right kneecap, ended up having to go on the IL. But since he's come back, he has been excellent. And as we have gone 14-2, it's on the back of people like Max Kepler, who's had just a tremendous run for us. He can do a little bit of everything at the plate. He's a very dynamic offensive player, a plus runner, plus power, can really hit, and the defense has been extremely positive every single time he goes out there. So a real backbone player of our team. Max has done an excellent job so far this season.
One of the other players that really jumps out to mind for me is Ryan Jeffers, and it's been a good year so far for catchers offensively around the game. And boy, he's right up there with him. Now, I know last year I think he had he played 96 games. He had 14 homers and 859 OPS. What has he done this year to be even better than last year?
Well, I think you guys know in years past, you guys have had a competitive advantage behind the plate as well offensively at times. And it's such a boon for your offense when your catcher is also contributing, let alone contributing at the level that he is at this point. We really saw a coming out party for him last year where he really established himself as one of the better offensive catchers in the game. What we've always loved about Ryan is he's a great game caller. He's a great framer. Candidly, we thought he was going to come to the big leagues with some of those defensive skills and some power. We weren't sure exactly how he was going to hit, but now he's availed himself as one of the better hitting catchers in the game as well. The power is playing. He's delivering, and he's really in a nice groove right now. But so he's a triple threat catcher in the sense he's delivering power. He's got a great bat, and defensively he's a guy our pitchers love to throw to. So I think Ryan, the sky's the limit for Ryan. He's a guy who really pushes himself. He's competing with himself each and every day, and I think that's what is a key to his success.
Yeah, Thad, I know you're not the hitting coach, but I was reading up on Jeffers before we came on the show here, and he was talking about he's using a broomstick off the field in some of his drills that he's trying to get better offensively, and he wants to use the ground better. Can you explain that to me if you know a little bit about that, and just how, sometimes things just don't happen and there's reasons why he's much better offensively?
Yeah, and I think the two things you just mentioned there are two keys for him. The broomstick is a drill he's working on to really fine-tune his bat-to-ball skills. He is, as I mentioned, his power has been always very strong, but he's now trying to refine his ability to bring the barrel to the ball as frequently as he possibly can, cut down the strikeouts. So that's more of an eye-hand skill development drill that he's working on. And then as far as the staying grounded, if you've ever seen the man, it's a generous thigh diameter that he's working with, and so I think he's trying to use what God gave him, which is his lower half, to really generate the power that we're seeing on a day in and day out basis.
Now I know that he's hit a little bit of a skid lately, but Edouard Julien is still having a really good year, and of course we, friend of the show, Canada's Own, et cetera, et cetera. What are your expectations for him this year, and how has he done in exceeding or matching or exceeding those expectations?
He's been an exceptional offensive weapon for us ever since we've gotten him to the big leagues. He came through the whole minor league system with us, hitting extremely well. He commands the strike zone at an exceptional rate, especially for a young, less experienced hitter. And I think that's what he's going to always lead with. He's going to be a guy who's going to deliver on base, and his slugging percentage, it's going to be on base and slug is what he's going to lead with. I think that batting average is going to come as he gets to learn pitchers better. He's an extremely patient hitter. So what we're seeing on a day in and day out basis is a guy who works counts, extremely confident at the plate, grinds pitchers, and it's the prototypical leadoff hitter who's going to take 6 to 8 pitches out of the pitcher's arm with each at bat. He's got great bat to ball skills. Due to his patience, he finds himself in a lot of 3-2 counts, a lot of 2-strike counts. So there are some strikeouts that come with his approach. But I think the power is legitimate. I think the patience is elite. And I think the bat-to-ball skills are very strong. And I think the one thing I just would like to note about Julien, you guys haven't gotten a chance to see him this year, but he's really improved defensively. And this was a challenge we issued to him last year. I think, he was getting taken out of games late for defensive replacements. And he wanted to prove to Rocco that he could stay in the game and not only be competent defensively, but actually be an asset to the team. And I think he's been just that. The defense has really improved year over year, and now all of a sudden he's become a weapon on both sides of the ball, which is excellent for us. Speaking
of challenges, I look at your bullpen, Duran, Sands, and Jax, and I look at all the strikeouts. One guy's got more than 14 per 9. One's got more than 12. One's got more than 11. Those are all great, but then you look at pitches per inning, and they're way down, right? It's Duran's in the 15s, Jax is in, I think, like the 18, 19s. Sands is in somewhere, I think, around the 17. It's not a lot of pitches, right? When you're throwing that few amount of pitches and getting that many strikeouts, you're doing something right. Is that a point of emphasis in the offseason? Is that more attributed to these three guys? Or is that something you guys really beat home and say you got to throw the strike one and you got to have that action in 3 pitches? Is that something you guys are really honing in on?
I think you nailed it. We had a very good starting rotation last year. We think we will have a very good starting rotation this year. That said, we lost Sonny Gray. We lost Kenta Maeda, 2 guys who had eaten up a lot of innings for us last year. So in the transition phases, we're establishing some starters at the big league level. We really were focused on building out our bullpen. We were really focused on the attention that we were going to need to pay to that part of our team, because we knew we were going to rely heavily on them, especially early in the season, to help us win games. So in so much as doing that, we really did focus on strike one. That's a huge part of our emphasis of Pete Mackey and Colby Suggs, our 2 pitching coaches who work with that group, and Luis Ramirez. Those guys are constantly preaching that. We're trying to get into pitchers' counts. We think it really helps that unit out. Now, you just happen to cite 3 guys who also have great strikeout pitches. Yeah. But part of their strikeouts are due to the fact that they're in a lot of pitchers' counts, and they're not alone in our bullpen in terms of being able to do that. So that is a real emphasis for us. We're trying to keep those guys innings short because we know that the outings may be a little bit higher volume early in the season as we're establishing our rotation.
Dad, we really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much, man. Be well.
Thanks, Dad.
My pleasure, guys. Always a good time coming on with you guys. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Take care. That's Thad Levine. He's Senior VP and General Manager of the Minnesota Twins. And Edouard Julien, his batting average is like 205, but he's got 7 home runs. He's playing really good defense. At one point this year, he was on a roll. I mean, he was on a heater. It's kind of obviously leveled out a bit, but he is a guy that I've seen a couple of their games this year, actually more than a couple of their games this year, and he has improved noticeably defensively, and he's got the confidence of Rocco Baldelli, and they're leaving him in there.
Yeah, I think batting average is down throughout the entire league. So, batting average is not everything. I mean, 205 is 205. But, I think it's more the quality of the at-bat. It's how many pitches he's seeing per at-bat, where he's hitting in the lineup, right? It's usually at the bottom or at the top. Mm-hmm. He's trying to set the table for other guys, right? They got thumpers in the middle of the order that we just talked about with Thad.
They don't have Royce Lewis or Byron Buxton either.
Yeah, it's like I think without Byron, I think they're used to not having Byron, right? It's sort of, you if you got him, that's a plus. If you don't got him, I think they're used to that. I just think it's sort of every guy's got their role. You go up, you stay within yourself, you be yourself, and that's sort of the organization's way. At least it sounds like when you listen to Thad, you read about the Twins, and they got enough youth that's hungry, and they got enough experience that they're getting sausages, right? You mix the two together, and then you got a bullpen that they have who can strike out everybody. You're not wondering now, I think, why they're winning 12 games in a row and why they can go 8-2 in their next 10 after breaking that streak. So they got a really good team. Jay's got their hands full.
Yeah, they are a you talk about how teams are built and how teams are constructed. They are a well-constructed team.
Yeah.
They really are. The lineup, we saw We saw how the Blue Jays in the playoffs last year, just how that lineup forced John Schneider's hand. It is a really well constructed team, and they are, they are going to be a handful for the rest of the, for the rest of the season. But that whole division, it's going to be fun because there's, you look at Detroit's got some good young players, Minnesota's got some good young players, Kansas City's got some good young players. It is and Cleveland is, Cleveland's loaded with young players. That is the biggest thing I think that division is going to come down to over the next 5 years is which ownership group will pony up and keep their core together. And the issue for the Twins is they're a little farther along than some of those other teams. They're a little older. They've got some guys who are probably going to require, or indeed already require, higher salaries than Kansas City or Detroit. But that, as I said, that division's going to be a handful.
Yeah, I think it's a marathon. We got to remember too. The Central, it is a marathon, not a sprint. It's not so much how you start; it's how you finish. Do we expect Cleveland to continue to do these things? I think we expect the Twins to have a really good season and win close to that 90-game mark and be a playoff team. Do we expect the other teams? I think we sort of might not put the cart before the horse when it comes to that division. But I do think, it's going to be tougher for other divisions in the American League, like the Blue Jays, like the Rays, like the Rangers of the Astros.
The Mariners.
There you go, like the Mariners. You're right, now they're playing catch-up. Playing catch-up's not the easiest thing to do with how good the pitching is at the big league level. So, it's going to be interesting. It will be, I think, the GM that makes the right move at the right time for all the teams that are playing catch-up. You just mentioned them. I mentioned them. Mm-hmm. It's the GM that sort of, it may be an under the rug move, but it's still that little move. Maybe it's a seventh inning guy, a hybrid, give you 2 innings that, can make up for a Yimi Garcia missing. It's just a little piece that could help a team win a baseball game or two that could sort of, put them ahead of the teams in the American League Central. So, yeah, it's going to be intriguing just to see sort of who throws in the towel, who gives the team, the organization, a chance to figure it out, and who adds a piece. Just that piece that nobody thinks is a good piece that can help a team win a game.
Yeah, that is that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the division rankings and the minor league systems, because those are important, obviously, for making trades. Detroit, MLB Pipeline has them 5th.
Yeah.
The couple of other teams in the Central are in the top 15, and that's generally a pretty good sign. The Twins are 15th. So there is those organizations, in addition to being awfully good at the major league level, they have a certain amount of depth that they can tap into as well. And that's, as we've seen, that's one of the keys to being able to make a trade, is being able to tap into that.
The saving grace may be the Rays may not be in it, and the Astros may not be in the trade part of it, right? Yeah. So you may not have to compete with those two teams, and that would leave windows open for maybe if the Mariners wanted to do something, maybe if the Tigers wanted to do something, maybe the Jays wanted to figure out how to make a move with some of the other bad teams, like the Cardinals, like the Rockies. You could do some things, but you want to beat other teams to the party, right? So I'm just intrigued to see how, which GM feels confident enough in their team playing catch-up that if they made a decent move and in a more solid move, would that help their team take the next move and step forward? So I'm intrigued to see all this.
Oh, it'll be fascinating to see how it plays out. 416-413-3959 is the back leg line. Your chance to leave questions, comments for Kevin or myself. Please leave your name and location. We had Justin Turner cancel on us today, so we've got a little extra time to go to the back leg line.
Better have a team meeting, that's all I can say.
Well, I'm sure
they won.
Sure they're meeting about something.
Don't rock the boat. Team.
John Schneider joins us at 3 o'clock as well. Don't go anywhere. It's Blair and Barker for Friday. This is Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet.
All right, can we have security down here, please? Got some riffraff in here.
Uh-oh.
Blair and Barker for a Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Mother's Day's on Sunday.
Happy Friday, Mom. I know my mom's watching in Morden, Manitoba. We're going to be out there in August for her 100th birthday.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
She looks 50.
Huh?
She looks 50.
No, she looks.
She does.
She looks 53, 54.
She's raring and ready to go every time I've seen her.
Yeah.
What happened to you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Don't blame it on me.
Oh, I'm not blaming you. Thanks, by the way, to our friends. Well, I could. Thanks, by the way, to our friends at Pizza Nova for dropping off lunch for the team today. There's nothing left because Barker just scarfed it all down. For the entire month of May, Pizza Nova is celebrating their 25th annual That's Amore Pizza for Kids, where 50 cents from every dip purchased will be donated to Variety, the children's charity of Ontario. Variety offers sports, activities, skill development, and other participatory programming in community centers and sporting facilities across Ontario. I dip, you dip. Kevin Barker, let's all dip for Variety.
Nailed it.
I did nail it. You didn't think I was going to say that last line, did you?
No. You were told not to.
No, I was not told not to. I was given the option. And I felt buoyant and ebullient.
As long as you
Friday.
slow it down.
It's Friday.
Don't say it so fast.
The Twins are in town. My Twins.
Yeah.
It's cricket night. Carlos Brathwaite.
Awesome.
That's going to be great this year. Read about Carlos Brathwaite. Windies, baby.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, man.
All right.
Cricket is a. I always tell cricket's more. For some reason, people don't want cricket's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch. I don't understand the whole rule.
I'd have to study the rules. Yeah,
I don't understand all the rules, but I watch it. If it's on when it's on TV, I'll stop and watch it.
Yeah,
just because it's
like rugby.
It's freak,
oh boy,
the skill set is freakishly good.
It is, yeah.
And I know you like rugby too.
I do. I love it. Yeah.
Anyhow. 416-413-3959 is the back leg line. As I mentioned, your chance to leave questions, comments, recipes, jokes, one-liners for Kevin Barker. Sometimes for me, please leave your name and location. Kevin in Toronto, he had nothing to do, so he said, I'm going to call up the back leg line.
Why are all the coaches and general manager and the owner getting the blame when the top three hitters on this team are all underperforming? You can't name a single team that has found success in this league when their top three players are drastically underperforming, like the top three on the Blue Jays are.
Well, that is a good point. I don't believe anybody's blaming ownership. If anything, we're sitting here saying for the amount of money they're paying out, they're not getting good value. And I've said this, and I keep getting criticized for it, and that's fine. But amongst the groups of people who deserve better than they're getting right now from this team is ownership, and they've ponied up. They've got the most expensive starting rotation in baseball. So, and as far as the coaching staff goes, I mean, I think we've been pretty clear about this, Kevin. Baseball is a very individual sport, as you say. Mm-hmm. I think a coach's importance to the player depends on the player. Why we talk about the coaching staff, at least why we do in this show, is because that was made a focal point in the offseason. We were told communication was going to be. I mean, the general manager came out and basically said that the biggest change we were going to see this year was in the way information was disseminated to the hitters. Well, that's on the coaching staff. But further to the caller's point, the caller's absolutely right. There's nothing that a 10-game hitting streak from Bo Bichette and George Springer couldn't care about this team right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the question. But, Kevin, the front office that put all this faith in these three players, when those players don't live up to the faith put into them, I think it's entirely fair to question the front office.
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty big sample size of not very good. And I think that, for me, is a little head-scratching on why that is taking place. We see slumps all the time. I mean, it's part of baseball, right? Again, it's a round thing with a round thing. You're going to go through. You wake up with a stiff back, and then you overcompensate for something else, and now you're playing catch-up for a week, but not for 37 games. That is, I think, what the head-scratcher is all about. Is it communication? Is it, again, I am in the camp, because I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and it is very individual, that it's not all on the coaches. But when your GM comes out and says that we have faith in the core and the coaching staff, he is telling us that he is putting a lot of emphasis on how good the relationship and the information's being relayed from the khakis to the players, and they're going to fix it, and the sample size of stinking is going to be smaller. Well, why is it bigger? That I think, for me, is a little confusing, and he had a golden opportunity, meaning Ross, in the offseason to change it up a little, and he didn't. And I think that, for me, if you're the fan base of the Blue Jays, is a little frustrating and a little confusing.
Yeah. And I'm also going to say this as well. This has probably been the worst we've seen Bo since he's been here.
Yeah.
Vladdy's turned it around in the last 10 games, but his start to the year, he was scuffling. We've kind of seen that from them in the past. The difference is, in the past, there was Teoscar or Lourdes or Marcus Semien, or, even for a while last year, Matt Chapman was hitting home runs last year. The difference, although I'm going to leave aside last year, the difference up until last year was that Jays were deep enough that on those rare occasions where Bo or Vladdy,
somebody can pick up the slack.
Somebody can pick up the slack.
Yeah, there you go, and help your lineup
of the
out.
order.
Yeah.
And that, the trade of Gurriel and the trade of Teoscar Hernandez really ate away at that security zone, at that comfort or security blanket, however you want to describe it. And the Jays haven't recovered from that. And
Teoscar's got 10 homers hitting cleanup for the Dodgers.
I know.
How would that look in the middle of the order? Anybody else got 10 homers for the Jays?
Yeah, we've spoken about this a lot, but I think looking back, that Teoscar Hernandez deal was the one that, the Lourdes Gurriel, Gabriel Moreno deal, and we can talk about that, but I think that's defensible in some ways on a baseball front. But right now, the Teoscar deal's not defensible.
They wanted to go run prevention, and they wanted to move George to right.
Yeah.
Now what do you do with Teoscar? You look offensively the way you look.
Yeah. Emma in Calgary, Alberta. Hello, Emma.
I was just wondering what you think our expectation of George should be offensively. Is he capable of hitting the way that the team needs, or is this George slowing down and our expectations are unrealistic for what he can do at this point in his career? Thank you. Love the show.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me look his numbers up. Say what you think about this. So I just want to know what your expectations are with George.
I will say the same. My expectations for George are something similar to what he gave me last year, because last year he was healthy. It's one of the healthiest. Talked about this at bats, plate appearances. He was healthy. He set career highs in a lot of categories like that. So I think that's about the best you're going to get from George Springer, is what you got from him last year. And age alone would suggest to me that there's probably going to be some regression. Like I'm just not expecting anything more than I got from him last year. I wasn't going into the season. I said this at the time that the contract was signed. At some point you were going to have to look at that contract and go, okay, now how do we manage this contract? It doesn't mean, I'm not saying it's like Vernon Wells' type of a contract, but at some point I think you had to look at George Springer and say the last couple of years of this contract we're going to have to manage it somehow.
Yeah, he had 25 doubles last year. He hit 21 homers. He had 72 RBIs. He struck out 125 times and walked 60
I don't really care about that.
Yeah, I think you should. Like, I think it is getting on base when he's struggling. I think it's occasionally getting a big hit. I think it's sometimes setting the table with an extra base hit. That's why I wanted to mention the 25 doubles. Do you think he can have 25 doubles and say 18 to 21 homers?
Boy, that's
he
tough.
He hit 258 last year. If he hit 240 with 18 homers, 20 doubles, and struck out 120 times, that's a good season for George. Because it seems like they're married to him in leadoff spot. It ain't going to change. So
I have no expectation. Last year was, if I can get last year or something resembling last year out of George, I'm taking it. I'm not expecting anything more. It's like anything. I want to see home runs. I want to see home runs.
Yeah, I don't know. Look,
I know. I'm with you. I don't know if we're going to see it, but I want to see 20 home runs from a lot of guys in this lineup. And George is one of the guys I want to see.
Yeah, I think a
home
guy
runs.
with slider bat speed, people I've talked to that have caught behind him, that have competed against him, said you can get him out with hard stuff. You got to crowd him. Does he look like now that he can be mechanically sound enough, not falling across the plate with his backside, and be able to pull the ball in the air against velocity? Because and I know that a lot of the times he's an educated guesser. He goes up and is looking for a certain pitch in a certain zone. He's gotten off to the rough start because he's expanding. Yeah. When he's looking for something because he hasn't been hitting, he expands the zone, he jams himself, whatever the at-bat looks like, and it looks like a non-competitive at-bat, and it looks like, he's not trying, which that's silly to say, but that's the optics of it. I say, can he flip it around and not be the 125 average hitter with runners on and be closer to the 247 average hitter with bases empty? Yeah. That's what you're asking yourself, right?
I'm just, again, give me what you gave me last year or a little bit less. That's
but
my
it's a great question. That is a tremendous $1 million question.
And I also, the expectations I will say is the only area I'm having my expectations met is defensively, and that doesn't
he's a borderline great defender.
But we are going to get to a point where, you have to look at what do you do with the last year or 2 years of that contract. And it's not the good thing I will say is this: there's no financial pressure to make a move, which is something that I think we need to keep in mind because in previous years and under previous ownership, I'm thinking specifically of the Belgian Brewers that own this team, there was pressure to cut payroll, and as far as we know, that's not on the table. So that gives the front office a little bit of wiggle room to know that you're being backed by ownership that's willing to commit. And they've always, this ownership has always done that. Certainly in the past 4 or 5 years. I mean, you look at the number of deals the Jays have made where they've kicked in money. Mm-hmm. Now it hasn't been $40 million. But the number of deals where the Jays have kicked in money.
How about
in the past, they wouldn't have done
How about showing a roster and a fan base that you care? How about that?
Bill and Markham.
Bill.
Actually, this is a question or a comment for Jeff.
Uh-oh.
You mentioned that the next 3 series were going to be, you thought the possibility that they would be crucial for this season, and that if things did not go well, then major decisions were going to be made by the management of the team, or at least that possibility existed. And I think you've identified a serious problem for the future of the team, because I don't think the management of the team, particularly Ross Atkins, has demonstrated an ability to make good decisions for the future of the team. So if in fact those decisions are going to be made early in the season for the future of the team, I think somebody else needs to be making them.
I mean, Ross Atkins has done a really good job. And when I say Ross Atkins, I think there's probably other people involved as well. But Ross Atkins has done a really good job of getting value in the free agent market. You look at the starting rotation. I say getting value, they're not. They're paying a lot of money for their starting rotation, but by and large, it's worked out. Kevin Gossman's contract has worked out. Chris Bassett's contract has worked out. I think Jose Barrios' contract is going to look really good. Jose Barrios to me might be. You've got him for a couple of more years. To me, he's a sure thing. They've done a nice job bringing in. Even we kind of laughed about it last year, but Brandon Belt didn't cost a lot of money. Justin Turner didn't cost a lot of money. So Ross Atkins has done a good job when it comes to the free agent market. Now, the question is, do you want Ross to be the guy who tries to get maximum value? Because let's be clear, this is what we're talking about. Who tries to get maximum value for Vladdy or Bo? Maybe you trade Yusei Kikuchi at the deadline if you're out of it. Maybe you trade Danny Jansen at the deadline if you're out of it. Jordan Romano, I don't know. That doesn't concern me as much as the return I'm going to need to get if I move one of those two guys, Bo and Vladdy. Because that, quite frankly, is either going to set my franchise back 5 years or it's going to set my franchise back maybe a year while the guys that I get for Bichette or Guerrero either one, contribute at the major league level, or two, get to the point where they can contribute at the major league level. I just don't know. I don't know if I'd trust Ross to make that decision. I honestly don't.
Yeah, Bill's like a lot of fans. The organization had an issue offensively at the end of the season. They still have it. Why is that? You put all your eggs in one basket. The basket didn't fill up with the guy that you wanted it to fill up with, and you're trying to piece it together by selling the core to us when the core looked the way the core looked last year.
This is different, though.
A lot of people could write a check for the best pitcher on the market. It's how do you piece together keeping what you already have, knowing that Teoscars of the world a lot of the times don't grow on trees, and you just get rid of it because is – for me, not the way a lot of organizations need to be ran. Yeah. And right now, offensively, it's just not good enough. So you can understand Bill and a lot of fans feeling that way.
That's great. But those are nowhere near significant decisions like deciding what you're going to get or if you're going to move off Bo or Vlad.
Some would say the lineup's worse than it was at the end of last year.
I'm agreeing with that.
Why is that?
The question is, we're agreeing on this. This is why I'm saying I don't know if I trust Ross to do that. Because this will be the biggest decision this organization makes in maybe 10 years is what to do with Bo or Vladdy or Vladdy. There's nothing else. There's no other decision they're going to make.
Well, I think you know what one of the two's getting traded.
But the point is, there's no other decision coming down the pipe that's going to be that important. There isn't. This is going to either set up your team for the future, or it's going to, really damage it in the short term. There's optics when it comes to fans here. There's optics when it comes to ticket holders. Like, this is Bo and Vlad. All the other things that the Jays have had to deal with are nothing compared to what do you do with Bo or Vladdy. I'm trying to think of a decision this organization has faced in the last 20 years that's this significant.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm trying to figure out maybe the decision to not offer Carlos Delgado arbitration and basically let Carlos Delgado walk for nothing. Other than that, Batista and Encarnacion, those decisions were different because they aged themselves out of your
I'm
picture.
not sure organizations are standing in line for Bo and Vladdy. I just don't think they are.
But that gets to the point about, do you think Ross can get value for it? That's the whole question. John Schneider's manager of the Blue Jays. He's got a game at 7:05 against the Minnesota Twins, but he's got a date with us before then. I wonder what'll be tougher. Probably the Twins game. It's Blair and Barker. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker for Friday. Blair and Barker will be doing Blue Jays talk as per usual tonight. Winning edition, I think, of Blue Jays talk tonight.
Whoa.
Well, it's Yusei Kikuchi.
Yeah.
Yusei Kikuchi against Joe Ryan. This is fun. The Twins are my childhood team.
They're killing mistakes.
Yeah.
Keep it out of the middle zone.
So I look forward to this. I look forward to this weekend. And you know, the Jays, the Jays beat a really good pitcher in his own ballpark and beat best team in baseball, maybe second best, certainly one of the top 3 teams in baseball, 5-3. So, I mean, if you're going to end a road trip that was difficult, it's.
I think we can both agree. It's go time.
It's a good way to
time.
do that. And we saw some things. We saw some life from some people in the lineup. And you know, the one thing about the Blue Jays, man, that does give you hope is, you know, you're going to get a good start by and large every night from your pitcher.
Yeah.
Every now and then you run into one where it isn't going to work out, but you would feel pretty comfortable, I think, with just about any of those dudes going out there. Yeah, but this is a tough, we talked about, this is a tough road. 3 against Minnesota, 3 against Baltimore, 3 against Tampa.
And out them big boy pants.
You go 5-4 in this, you go 5-4 in these 9 games.
22-24. And you're playing some lesser teams. Yeah.
John Schneider is the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, and he very graciously joins us. Look at him there. He's in his
looking
office.
sharp.
He is looking sharp.
What's up, guys?
Dapper.
Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So we'll get to the housekeeping right away. I know that you've been asked about Yimi Garcia every day for the past 5 days. Can you give us any more insight on whether or not he's a go from this point on? Will we have to wait another day? Will it have to go in the IL? What decisions have you made regarding Yimi?
Good off day yesterday for him. He should be ready to roll tonight out of the pen, which is a welcome sign for us in our bullpen right now.
What needs to happen to move George down the order, John?
Wow, right out of the chute.
Oh, I mean, it's early.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously, I've moved the order around a little bit. We'll see. You know what I mean? George, I think, has been underlying. You know, there's been good things going on. We're at the point in the year, I think, with everyone, not just George, where we have to find ways to score more runs consistently, and however that shakes out is how it shakes out. So I think right now, George, he's not in the lineup tonight. He's still kind of battling some sickness, like a lot of guys are, myself included. So we're going to give Schneider a go at the 1 hole and see how it unfolds tonight against a good pitcher. But yeah, man, there's nothing. I've been saying it for a long time. There's nothing set in stone. You're just trying to, adjust and use your eyes and try to see how we can get more runs on the board consistently.
With George, for me anyway, John, it's sort of 2 different people. It's the hitter with runners on where he's hitting 125, and then it's the hitter where he's hitting 247 with nobody on base. Where you're standing, can you see a difference in the 2 different at-bats?
No, honestly, I haven't. I think there's been situations where, George has been a little bit unlucky. I think we can all say that, whether it's with guys on or not. And we're talking about a really good player. We get the fact that, yeah, sure, he's getting older. We hear the outside noise. But I don't think his at-bats are drastically different when there are guys on. It just hasn't gotten the production that, he or we had hoped for to this point. But counting on him to continue, to work at it, continue to understand how pitchers are attacking him right now and make the proper adjustments.
John, as a guy who managed in the minor league system, when you see a guy like Davis Schneider, where he's come from, and, he's taken advantage of opportunities. He's getting a shot tonight in the leadoff spot, obviously because George is sick. But, I mean, as an organizational guy, you just got to like the story in addition to the player, right? This says a lot of good things about a lot of people in that organization, frankly, top to bottom.
Yeah, it does. Him first and foremost, but I think that what gets, everyone just sees the performance on the field. But I think the work that he put in with so many people that don't get recognized speaks volumes to the people that we do have here. And again, the credit goes to Davis, him kind of reinventing himself year after year and not being afraid to make adjustments. He's still doing it right now at the big league level, whether it's with his pitch selection, whether it's with his stance, his setup. He's still evolving with what he's seeing right now. So when you look at him, he's a guy that came over to some big league games in spring, and we joked with him all camp. This was the first big league camp he got invited to, officially. So you love hearing, you love seeing those kind of stories unfold. And then from that, you love watching a young player really try to keep evolving with what's happening in real time.
John, have you or the coaching staff had to have a conversation about going from where he was hitting to the leadoff spot? He's very aggressive, right? Leadoff spot, first thing, if I saw my name in that, I would think, got to take pitches, show the on-deck guy, what he's got, those kind of things. Have you had a conversation with him just saying, stay yourself, be yourself, go up there and let it eat?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think the leadoff spot in today's game is just way different than what it has been, years ago. But yeah, conversation. We did it once or twice last year. I think we were in Cleveland. He led off a game or two, and what I told him today was last night, don't change. Go have good at bats, swing at the right pitches, hit the ball hard, and do what you've been doing. That's made you pretty successful to this point. So whether it's the first pitch or the ninth pitch, I think what's nice about his at bats is that they're consistent. He's gonna, work a pitcher and get a pitch that he's comfortable swinging at, and a pitch that he can hit hard. So whether it's early in the count or later in the count, just keep doing what you're doing.
Awesome.
John, Vladdy's hitting .318, 7 RBI, 14 hits in his last 15 games. Looks more like the Vladdy we've seen in the past. Why?
I mean, I think, he's been pretty consistent, I think, without, taking a handful of games out in terms of what he's swinging at. And he's, I think confidence is a big thing, for players. And we're such creatures of habit, and I think with Vladdy going good right now, we're probably starting to see, the version of him that is there. He's just in a good frame of mind. His prep is good. His swing is where it needs to be right now. And that's when you're not worrying about that and you're just going out and reacting and competing. I think you see the results that you're getting out of Vlad. But he's, again, he's I've said it a million times. He's one of the most dangerous hitters in the game. And the fact that he's really kind of come into his own with his prep, how he's game planning against a certain pitcher and what pitches he's swinging at. It's not going to be perfect. That's the name of the game. That's the nature of the sport. But I think him just being really comfortable with where he's at right now with his routines, his mechanics, everything's kind of falling into place right now.
Which one you think is closer with Bo, the mental side or the timing side?
I mean, both really.
Yeah.
I think he's still hitting the ball hard. Huge hit in Philly, the RBI single to right, and it's literally a matter of time for Bo. This guy's got such a proven track record to hit. He's going to hit. And he's been open about it, talked to him as recently as today, and he's frustrated. He knows that he's better than what he's showing so far, and that for us to get to where we want to hopefully get to, we need Bo to be his normal self. And so I think he's feeling that a little bit. But I think the conversations, that have been had in-house, it gives you all the confidence in the world that it's going to turn, and it's going to turn quick. So it may be one game. It could be tonight. It could be tomorrow, until Bo becomes one of the hottest hitters in the game.
John, I think what surprises a lot of people about Bo is you watch him handle pitching. You watch him handle tough pitching and the way he can survive at the plate. I mean, I don't think there's anything as a slump-proof player, but I think maybe that's a thing that probably puzzles you as well, because I watch this guy, and it's not that he should be able to hit everything, but sometimes I think Bo should be able to hit everything, right? Just because of the way he is.
Yeah, it's kind of the blessing is the curse, right?
Exactly.
So you can handle everything.
Exactly.
And he's one of few hitters in the league that can hit tough pitching, whether it's a really good starter or a really good reliever late, So it's really a matter of time. I mean, I know I've said that, but I mean, I like where he is mentally, and I think he's still swinging the bat fairly well. But people are human, they understand when they're not going as well as they want to. It takes a little bit of a toll on you, and no one's immune to that, no matter how good you are. And there's other examples of that around the league with some really accomplished players this year, especially. So really, I mean, we don't want to put too much on Bo and say, hey, you need to hit or we're not going to be where we want to be. He's well aware that he wants to do and needs to do better, and for a guy that I've seen him for so long, and just, you're not going to outcompete him. I think that's what you fall back on. He's not going to sit back and say, well, woe is me, So it's been a tough stretch, but, just as soon as it's, the next day, you're going to look up and the numbers are going to be different, and he's going to be rolling, really. So it's It's part of it. He gets it, and he's frustrated for sure. But I think the way he's going about it has been awesome.
John, Ken Rosenthal wrote an article yesterday about talking to people around baseball, and I think it kind of stemmed from Jackson Holliday's experience coming up to the majors. And one of the points that was made was that because pitching is generally thin right now at the AAA level, and I'm paraphrasing here, it was a long story, but essentially that organizations have to be careful when it comes to prospects, looking at the numbers their prospects are putting up, because the quality of pitching they're seeing at AAA isn't as good as it's been in the past. You're somebody who's, coached in the minor league system, managed in the minor league system. Is there something to that? And I'm not just saying that because Jackson Holliday scuffled, everybody who comes up is going to scuffle, but it is kind of interesting. It's kind of an interesting concept, and it's something people have kind of talked about possibly happening given the way the game has kind of contracted the minor leagues.
Yeah, I read it. It's definitely interesting. You're talking about the number one prospect in baseball, basically can't miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Holliday, and struggled. So I think there are glaring differences between the game at AAA and in the big leagues, whether it is pitching, whether it is the ABS system that makes hitting a little bit more advantageous at that level as opposed to here. There's so many things that I think go into it, and I think pitching is so good at this level. There is a buffer zone of time to adjust to
Mm-hmm.
it. So I think there's so much information, and there's so many things that not just the Blue Jays, but every single team they dive into to see, okay, is this going to work? Is this going to translate? You could make the same argument with Addy Barger, who came up and you want to say he had one hit and 20 at bats, and I think every case is a little bit different. He's
Right.
tearing the cover off the ball in AAA, albeit 80 at bats. But I think the game, it's the hardest jump in this sport. Going from AAA to the big leagues, and then you see what the stuff the guys here are featuring night in and night out. It's tough. So a lot that goes into it for sure. And no one is. It's not a surefire thing. You got to come up and you got to make some adjustments too.
John, whenever I watch Danny Jansen get the barrel to different windows now offensively, it screams cleanup hitter. When does he get more run hitting cleanup?
Kev, I'm going to send a pen and paper to your set.
Okay.
You're going to write 1 through 9.
No, 1 through 4. 1 through 4.
And one day I'll do it. Yeah, man. That's where we're at. Jano's hitting 5th tonight, and I think I think his at bats have been so consistent.
Mm-hmm.
He's hitting the ball hard. He's controlling the zone, and when he's hot, he's hot. And right now, he's having really, really good at bats. Forced him in as a DH the other night just because he's swinging it so well. We'll see, man. Again, my job is to try to put the guys in order to have success, and you don't want to do anything crazy day in and day out, because these guys do thrive on routines. Totally get that. But you can't ignore what guys are doing at the same time. So whether it's anyone 1 through 9 or really 1 through 13, my goal every night is to try to win, and is to try to put as many runs up on the board as possible. And if it means Jano's hitting 4th, if Jano's hitting 1st, we're not gonna shy away from anything.
What's the hardest part about that for you as a manager, by making out the lineup, when it just comes to how a dude's doing, not just what, how it looks optically, just how he's doing? What's the hardest part of that for you?
Well, what I see and what not everyone sees is the work that goes in and the conversations that are being had with teammates, hitting coaches, things like that. What it comes down to really is any manager or any coach, you just blindly trust your players. You trust your players to go execute what they're talking about. And it's not going to happen every time, but the hardest part is being patient sometimes, whether, it's okay, this guy should hit for more power, this guy should put the ball in play more. If everyone saw the work that goes in with these guys every single day, it probably makes it a little bit more palatable to swallow, right? But me and the staff, we're always going to fall back on trusting the players. They are the ones out there performing every single night, and they're the ones that have to go get the results done. So I think what goes into it, you're not throwing stuff at the wall and hope it sticks. There's pretty deliberate thoughts and conversations that go into it, and we feel like there's a few guys that aren't scratching the surface of how good they can be. So it's a tough part of the gig for sure. And you totally get it. I wish you could just say, okay, you got 3 hits last night, you're hitting here tomorrow. It's a different game every single day. And I think just trusting the players is one of the biggest things that I lean into, and the staff leans into too.
Keeping everybody happy is impossible, John. Basically, that's just what you just said there forever, right? It's hard.
In this job, man, I always say you never have perfect attendance, whether it's you guys or players or fans. You know what I mean? You're never having perfect attendance. You know what I mean? But the guys that are here every day, you want to be as in tune with them as you can be. And that's the beauty and the curse of this job, is there's going to be people that disagree, and you're trying to just make the best decision for the team every single night.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Manoah, what you saw that you liked, what you saw that you didn't like, and the slider. I saw him when in his last start, he could do the sort of, when he didn't throw a good one and it got hammered, he would do the flipping and know that, need to do it better, catch it out front. Why is he not able consistently to do that?
I think, he, for one, he has been, and we have all the confidence in the world that he will continue to do that more consistently. What I liked was his stuff and his velo and the strikeouts that happened in the first 2 or 3 innings of the game. I think from that, there's probably some nerves. There's probably a little bit of, he's amped up to get back in the big leagues and pitch. And when you're losing the zone, stuff's going to happen like it happened in D.C. I think if he could have any real pitches back, it's the hanging breaking balls for home runs. And I think with that, when you're struggling with your fastball command, he was throwing sliders, in hitters counts, and they got hit hard. And I think, you hear him talk to Pete in between innings, you hear him talk in between his, and the days after his start, and understands that you can't do that. You can't flip in a slider in a 2-1 count to a guy who's going to be aggressive in that count. You still got to rip it and execute your pitches. So that's what it comes down to. So whether it was that first start, I think kind of, in a vacuum, that's what you want to be better, but that's what big league pitchers do. His next outing on Sunday, one of the goals is to not leave any lazy breaking balls in the zone. It happens to everyone. It happened to Jose a couple times, who's American League Pitcher of the Month. It's going to happen. So I think being aware of that, and when you are, scuffling to find the zone a little bit with your heater, you can't take your foot off the gas if you're throwing a slider or a changeup.
Yep.
John, as always, we appreciate your time. Thanks for this, man.
Thanks, get him, buddy.
Yeah, you bet, guys.
Good luck.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Take care.
See you.
See you.
John Schneider, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. The Jays lineup is out. It is as follows. You already know by now. Davis Schneider leading off. Dalton Varsho is hitting second. Vladdy's third. Turner cleaning up. Jansen in the 5-hole. Bichette hitting sixth. Biggio in right field. IKF is at second base. Ernie Clement gets the start at third base. And as we mentioned, Yusei Kikuchi on the mound. So George Springer, and we know that George Springer did have the flu yesterday. And Davis Schneider. The story continues. And why not? There have been a lot of things we've talked about this year that haven't been optimistic or positive, but I really like it when a guy who is kind of an organizational guy, and I mean that in a positive way, because I know some people would view that as a bit of a slight, but when a guy that you have taken as an organization and a guy who has taken advantage of the opportunities you've given him to get into the major league, I just think that's pretty cool, because I think that's the type of thing where a lot of people had to make the right decision at the right time.
Yeah, it sounds to me like George Springer was one of their core hitters, and he was going to give George run at leading off. And whether he's sick or not, sometimes I think rubbers met the road. And you got two against some good teams, and he understands they need to go 5-4 and not 1-5. If they go 1-5, it's up the creek without a paddle, so to speak, and you'd rather have dudes getting at bats than other dudes, and we know who the other dudes are. So now I just think for me, it's sort of that, he's got the flu. It's a nice excuse to get a guy or two up front that deserve it more than the other guy. That's just me.
I think you're making a bit of a supposition there. Are you suggesting that that this is anything other than, I don't think this is.
No, I'm not saying he's not sick, but I'm saying that they need to go 5-4 and not 1-5. That's what I'm saying. Like they need to, in the next games here, go and win some baseball games. Yeah. Like right? Offensively, George right now is just not getting it done. And if you can move a guy up and give a guy a day off or 2 or 3, then, I mean, it's just fun. They did just come off a day off. And it's just nice to be able to get a guy up front who's getting it done and fill in a blank for a guy who's not getting it done. How's that? Is that better said?
Good news, too. It appears on Yimi Garcia. Although, again, we'll have to wait and see until the game. If you were a contending team and you were because there's a lot of there are a lot of teams out there looking for bullpen help right now, including the Baltimore Orioles. And I don't know about trading him with it, but if you were a contending team and you needed bullpen help,
healthy Jimmy,
you'd be all over
Absolutely.
Healthy Jimmy, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, he can pitch from the 6th inning to the 9th inning. If that Jimmy that we've been seeing before he had the back issue, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's experienced. He can flip a breaking ball to a guy that needs to be flipped a breaking ball. Like, he can pitch backwards if he has to. He can pitch to a guy's weakness. He can throw a fast ball up that's competitive and not non-competitive. Like, he can do some things to some tough hitters. He can pitch to the bottom of the order. He can pitch to the meat of the order. Like, absolutely. Would you want to trade him to the Orioles? I mean, that would have to be, they've fallen off a cliff, and they're trying to get the best for each guy, and they don't care who they trade him to. Jimmy's getting up there in age. He's not going to pitch forever. It's not like you're going to be competing against Yimi Garcia for long periods of time. So would that be perfect scenario? Absolutely not. It's the Orioles. But if you've fallen off that cliff and they're giving you the biggest package or, the biggest name guy, absolutely you'd do that. No question.
It's funny. We were talking to we had David Sampson on yesterday, and we were talking about when you look around Major League Baseball, the teams that have underachieved or I guess underperformed. You look at the Cardinals, you look at the Jays. Chicago's kind of doing what we thought they do. The Houston Astros. There are some teams with some intriguing movable pieces, and Jim Bowden did a review of possible tradable players in the Athletic. Some of the names, Arenado. There are some interesting names out there, and there are organizations. You look at some of their players, you think these are change of scenery guys. I just find it fascinating that the teams that might be in a position where they have to make really difficult decisions. There are going to be some teams with some elite talent. Like, we're not talking just about Oakland and the Chicago White Sox and I don't know, pick another team. I don't want to include Pittsburgh in that because they've got some good young players. But you know what I mean? There are teams with really good players who are going to be available.
Yeah, I just wonder if the Jays organization thinks they're one player away or multiple players away offensively. Like, is it if they just brought in a guy that's going to be okay that can hit you 18 homers? Is that enough? Like, right now, realistically, they just brought in one guy that could hit 18 homers, hit somewhere in that 260 mark, maybe hit somewhere around 290 with runners and scoring. Is that good enough?
I think the time to do that would have been in the winter with the free agent. If you are going to, I don't think this team is good enough right now that you would look at necessarily only trading to help yourself right now. If you can add a bullpen arm and it doesn't cost you anything, it costs you, some minor league prospect, fine. I'm okay with that. But I don't think you're in a position now where you're not going to trade Vladdy or Bo for something that's necessarily going to help you right away. I mean, you're not. Those are the types of deals. Basically, what you want to do is if you've come to the conclusion that you can't extend your window of opportunity, you want to begin the process of finding a new window of opportunity. And so that means that you want to have a couple of people in place when Elvis Martinez is up here, and maybe when Addison Barger's up here, pick somebody else in the minors. And that, I think, is why a decision with Vladdy or Bo is so difficult, because your best value for one of those two may be a player that doesn't help you right away. It could be somebody's top prospect.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that's...
What if you're between a rock and a hard place and not a lot of people are invested in Bo and Vladdy, are not going to offer you a ton? Do you still do it?
You know what? The people we've spoken to, I don't think that's an issue. I don't think that's an issue.
The quality of what they would get back?
And I think people look at Vladdy as being, again, baseball people love to reinvent the wheel. They look at Bo as a guy who could win a batting title. They don't look at Bo and see the 2024 Bo. They see the body of work. And I think you'd get a pretty good haul for him. Vladdy, I just don't know, because we knew what Bo was before this slump. Can he get back to what he was? Absolutely. There's no reason he can't. But we still don't know what Vladdy is necessarily. Like, what is the... If you're a team, any team, and you're looking to add one of those two guys, you're probably more confident in what you're getting with Bo than you are with Vladdy. Because we've seen Bo at his very best 2 years in a row, 2.5 years in a row. We see Vladdy at his best one good year, and there's a real question whether he'll ever be that good again. Could Bo do what he did last year again? Absolutely. Could Bo do what he did 2 years ago? Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, he's a better defender than he was back then. So I think for me, Bo Bichette is a much surer thing than Vladdy is.
Yeah, I would think that if you're the organization wanting him, you're wanting to sign him to a big deal. What would the number be that you would be willing to offer him? Like, that's the thing, right?
I mean, it's got to be.
You're not giving up prospects just to bring him in to trade him again or let him go. You're bringing him in to want to re-sign him and build around him, or him be the final piece to making that, championship run. So I think it's to each his own when it comes to the. I just
this much we know. You're going to get more for Bo.
How do you know that?
You're going to get
Do
more.
we know that?
You're going to get more for Bo right now than you will get if you wait and trade. Let me finish. You're going to get more for Bo right now than you would get if you waited and traded him next year.
I would think it's all about talent. If you're an organization, who's got more talent, Bo or Vladdy?
It's timing.
I think it's more talent.
You're getting either one of them. What I'm saying is you're getting a year and a half of a guy instead of just a year. So you're going to get more for Bo now than you're going to get trading Bo next year. Because whoever's acquiring Bo next year is getting him for 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
Whoever gets him now is getting him for a year and a year at least. So that's the question the Jays have to ask themselves.
Yeah.
You're going to get more for those guys now than you will next year.
It's not an easy decision, for sure. It's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's absolutely
so
not.
Basically, you're telling a fan base you're punting.
Huh. Or you're saying or you're saying, you know what? We don't have a chance of signing this guy. It's a thing where
you think they have a chance anyway. You don't think fans realize that already?
No, I think a lot of fans still are holding out hope because fans are like that, and fans should be like that. I'm like that. I'm holding out hope. I hope they get one of them signed. Absolutely. I would love to see. I've said this. I'd give Bo his contract tonight. I go down there tonight and give him his contract. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But the thing is, and that's something this front office needs to know and needs to think about. If you make a deal involving either of those two players, you better have your messaging down when you go in front of the media and in front of the fans and explain why you do that. You better have that down. And you better make clear that one of the reasons we're doing this is we tried to sign this player and we couldn't come to terms. I'm just saying that has to be done. This is a hugely difficult decision for this organization. As I said, it's a defining decision for this organization. It's much more of a defining decision than acquiring David Price or Troy Tulowitzki. Batista, Edwin. Again, they were old. They aged out of becoming part of your core. Same with Josh Donaldson. He was hurt. I mean, the taking apart the 2015, 2016 Blue Jays was easy compared to this. Because now you're dealing or you're getting rid of guys, you're making calls on guys who aren't in their prime yet. Now you're making calls on a 27-year-old shortstop and a 26-year-old first baseman. Those are big decisions. Those are big, big, big calls.
There you go.
Variety of reasons. Let's take a break and come back. I think we still got some things we can talk to. I'm looking at the back leg line. Oh, yeah. We've got one question, at least in the back leg line. We'll get to 416-413-3959. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. Did anybody see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we had a guy in the room here. Again, I want to get security down here.
It's not a guy. He's the boss.
I'm going to call security. Hang on.
On yourself?
I'm going to call security.
Mm.
Can you at least close the door?
No. We're in a stretch run.
Mark Boffo, our producer. I let him in here. Yesterday when you were gone.
Yeah.
And now he thinks he's, Anyhow, 7:05 is the first pitch tonight. 7:07 is the first pitch.
There you go. Don't let it beat you.
Well, listen.
It's never been 7:05 ever. Never has it been 7:05.
Wishful thinking. I'm hoping if it's 7:05, we'll be home earlier. 7:07 first pitch tonight on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, Sportsnet Radio Network, and Sportsnet as the Jays take on the Minnesota Twins in the first of 3 games at the Rogers Center. It is cricket night at the ballpark. The giveaways at cricket. It was bucket count.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really
Bring
outstanding.
me one.
No. I've got my lineup together because John Schneider basically dared us. He dared me.
Oh, he called me out a little. Well, it's fine.
It's my lineup.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, I don't care if it's a lefty or righty on the mound. I don't
me
care.
either.
My lineup is Schneider leading off.
Yep.
Vladdy hitting second.
Yep.
Turner third. Jano cleanup. Varsho fifth. Bose sixth. Springer seventh. KK eighth. IKF ninth.
There you go.
That's my lineup.
If there's a lefty on the mound, you'd probably flip-flop Bo and Varsho.
Yes.
You'd rather have Bo getting did bad against the lefty than Varsho just because, he's left-handed on face ton of this.
I'd have Springer hit seventh, and if he complained, I'd say,
sometimes it ain't rocket science, buddy.
Exactly.
It's the first 4 guys, or it should be your hottest 4 guys. You make a little run with him for a week. See how it plays out. And Danny's earned the right to hit cleanup. You'd rather him hitting a 3-run homer than a solo homer. A little of this is common sense. And again, I know it's not that easy. It sounds easy for us to sit down and go, hey, write the name there, put the name here. But there's egos in the room that he's, John's trying to walk the fine line and not ticking people off and, not ruining his season. He's still going to need them dudes.
Yeah.
So I think we found a winner there, though. Winner, chicken dinner. He ain't going to call us, so. No.
416-413-3959 is the back leg line. Let's go back to the back leg. Did we still have Taylor and Kitchener's call queued up from the last?
It's no secret that Mark and Ross are good buddies. They've been together a whole bunch of years, going back to Cleveland, and possibly before that dates me a little bit. But my question then comes is, if it comes down to it and Ross needs to go, is Mark going to be able to part ways with him, or will they go as a package? Thanks, gentlemen. Take care.
How would you answer that, Jeff? Do you have any idea how to answer that?
Yeah,
it's a great question.
I will answer it by asking you if you have an answer.
I have no idea how to answer that.
No, I don't either.
I would have thought after the season ended last year and the conversation that Ross had throwing his manager under the bus, he'd have been gone before he walked off the stage. That didn't happen. No. I have no. How would you even answer that? How would you even know the conversation behind closed doors? We have no idea, and nor should we. So I don't. For the first time, I'm going to say I have no idea how to answer that.
Yeah, I've said, and I'm not. This isn't me backing out of anything. I don't know how the decision making process. I don't know how it works. But I truly don't. I don't know how it works. I don't know who makes the call when they make the call.
I don't know.
I do know that, Mark strikes me as a patient guy in a lot of ways. I don't know about the relationship with Mark or Ross. I know they work together in Cleveland, but I honestly don't know how deep it runs or anything like that. I know that when Ross came over here, one of Ross's strengths was he was a guy who, really believed. He understood analytics, obviously, but he also he was the type of person who bought into the type of culture Mark was trying to create, and that was very important to Mark. So I would be lying if I said I have any greater insight. If I have any greater insight other than that, I mean, Mark gave him a new contract. Ross is actually under contract for a year longer than Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So that would indicate that, and I think when Mark did his news conference at the end of the year, did he not come out and say that he was asked to grade Ross's job? He said, we made the playoffs 3 years in a row, or 3 years.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4,
which
they did. And if those were the expectations and Ross has met those expectations, I can see why Mark would feel that way. But I just, I look at this year and I look at a second unimpressive offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the minor league system and again, a lot of this, the ratings for the minor league system and everything, I mean, it's not an exact science, but it certainly doesn't seem as if the minor league system is considered to be one of the strongest in baseball. So on a lot of levels, you have to ask yourself, how is Ross being judged on anything other than getting this team into the playoffs?
Are they a better offense than they were at the end of last year? No. You can answer that. No. Like how would you not? No. How would the grade be any higher than it was at the end of last year? It can't be. Like I would think that's how you're graded. No, it's performance driven.
Let's go to Vince in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
I'd like to know why you guys put so much stock in Teoscar. To me, when in the field, he was extremely lazy, seldom covering up for the other fielders when it's a close call. And yes, he could hit, but to me, he's not the be-all and the end-all that you guys seem to think he was.
I mean, I don't think he's the be-all and end-all. He's a whole hell of a lot better than anything else they have right now in the middle of the lineup. I can tell you that. I mean, to me, that's the thing. And when the deal was made, I don't think any of us were surprised that Teoscar went. It was obvious the organization wasn't going to sign him to a long-term contract. Looking back, I think they really undervalued, they being the front office. I think they misread colossally the impact of taking Teoscar out of the lineup without having the replacement in hand. That, to me, is the biggest thing, is you made the deal and I've told you this. I think you make that deal thinking, okay, we're going to get Kiermaier. He's going to improve our defense, and we're going to get player X who's going to come in and fill the hole offensively. And they didn't get player X.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to my grave thinking that they made that deal thinking they had another deal or a free agent signing in the bag, and it didn't work out. But we're praising Teoscar because he hits home runs.
Yeah, I think it's because you got rid of Lourdes and Teoscar at basically the same time. You took away a guy that can hit really good pitching, and you took away a guy who can hit 30 and drive in 100 and carry your team for a week at a time. Who else can do that?
Teoscar can be. And here's the thing: if you have Teoscar, he's your full-time DH. You don't need him catching the ball. Boom. You don't need him catching the ball.
Piece of cake. I mean, it's like you got rid of both of them. If you just get rid of one of them, okay, well, you can buy into that, right? You did it because of this reason, that reason. You needed another bullpen arm. You weren't going to re-sign him. Like, okay, it makes a little bit of sense. You get rid of both of them, and then you add the catcher to the mix too. Like, boy.
And it is
Good
possible.
Luck.
It is possible. Teoscar's hitting cleanup on the best team in baseball right now. It is possible that. And he was maddening to watch in the field. I will agree with the caller on that. But it is possible that at some point he kind of outgrows it and just, and
or he can DH every day. You get Varsho, he can play center. You move Springer to right. All of a sudden, you're cooking with gravy. I don't know. It's like, I think highly of Teoscar because I've told you this a bazillion times. You're in fair air when you can go right center, the third deck at the Rogers Center, and be right-handed consistently in batting practice. He did that with ease. I just don't grow on trees. I mean, you just can't go outside the organization all the time and find that. And they continue to not find that. So that's why it just, makes you scratch your head. And, it's look, sometimes you earn your 17 and 20.
Darren from Saskatchewan.
Darren.
Let's give Barker
Uh-oh.
the GM's title for a few minutes. How would he structure any moves that should be made? What would be his priorities? And what would he go to the manager with as to what he'd like to see for a lineup from a hitting perspective?
First of all, I'm going to jump in here and say, Kevin, if you're the general manager, I'm hoping you would not go to the manager's office and say, this is what I want your lineup to be.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay.
That's why you hire a manager, right? Well, we've already talked about our imaginary lineup.
Is that close to what?
Yeah. I mean, you flip-flop Bo and Varsho, depending on whether it's a lefty or righty. Absolutely, right? You don't overthink it. Who's your best 4 hitters right now? Yeah, you roll with that for a week. And then after a week, if that doesn't work out, then you have your little team meeting and you figure it out that way. The GM thing, look, that should have been taken care of in the offseason. Like in-season moves trying to get impactful bats. Good luck. And we've talked about this till we're blue in the face. Well, what move they making to get it? Like, it's just unless you're spending money in the offseason to get it. That's why they were trying to drop the $700 million, is because they knew, just like everybody else knows, that knows a little bit about baseball, with what they don't have at the minor league level to trade with. It's just hard to go out and get impactful kind of things to fill in the blanks. And right now, both sides, right? John's doing the best he can do with the lineup. I know the John haters hate hearing that, but what else would you do if you were John? I mean, he tries everything he can possibly try with the lineup. I mean, what else you want him to do? He's got what he's got. He's trying to fill in the blanks with that. And for me, you blame the GM for what he don't have. You want to blame anybody, point the finger at anybody? I mean, it starts with the player first. Point the finger at the player who's gotten off to a really slow start and let it go for 37 games. That is a long time, Jeff. Like, again, I struggled forever, but my name was never Bichette on the back or Springer on the back or some of these other names that have struggled for the period of time that they've struggled. And then you start pointing the finger at the GM. I don't blame the coaches. I don't blame if you want to point the finger at John for making the wrong move to the pen, I mean, unless he's got Yimi Garcia, who is he going to? He's
throwing darts at a dartboard.
It is like you're closing your eyes, picking the name out of the hat and hoping you're picking the right name. So, fans are what fans are. They're going to hate the people they hate. And if you want to hate John, go for it. I tend to want to point the finger at the $25 million man leading off, the $13 million man playing short, and a plethora of guys who, with runners on base, quite frankly, don't get it done. And if you want to throw in Ross to that mix, more power to you, because, it sort of looked like it's looked at the end of the season the way it looks now. How's that?
I think at some point you need to have a little bit of stability in the manager's office, too.
I do, too.
I mentioned this, but it's true. The other teams in the American League East, they've had stability in the manager's office. Yeah. Aaron Boone's been nearly fired, 4 times? He's still the manager there.
Yeah.
At some point, considering everything we know about how decisions are made in baseball now, I made this point. It's firing the manager isn't the cure-all it used to be, because there's a lot of people that have their hands in the decision-making process. And I'm with Kevin. I would, if I was making changes, the manager's office is not a place I'd make the change right now.
No,
I wouldn't.
I'm with you.
I just wouldn't. That's
if Bruce Bochy came in here. Do you think they have a better record? They might, maybe a couple of games.
Yeah, I don't.
One way or the other, just because it's Bruce Bochy and he's been there and done it before. But other than that, like, you think he's making the lineup any better? Like, you can only write the name in there that you can write. Like, why do you think the Yankees are better? Because Soto and Judge all of a sudden is a behemoth. Yeah. Like, it's the obvious reasons. Like, you can't overthink these things sometimes.
Abdullah in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Never anticipating on calling in and asking this question, certainly at this part of the season. But do you, Kevin, think the Blue Jays are going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline, given the current state of our standing? It would be interesting to see what you guys think. Really hoping we're buyers, but it's not looking good, to say the least. So let me know what you think. Again, big fan of the show, hoping the Jays turn it around. Take care.
Thanks, Abdullah.
My gut says Sellers, but I hope just because of the rotation and the way they play outfield defense that they're buyers. Like I think the front office owes it to the pitching staff to go out and be buyers. I really do. Like I just because of those four guys, whoever the fifth guy is, I mean that's sort of a work in progress, and hopefully it's Alek Manoah, and he's much better, and everything is the way it should be, and it looks the way it should be, and you just can't wait to watch him pitch every 5 days. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and then. Boy, my gut, though, says just how offensively did they turn it around and even score 4 runs consistently a game? I mean, they're in the 3.5 range, Jeff. Yeah. Like, I just don't know how all of a sudden that's going to get better.
Shai Davidi and Ben Nicholson-Smith wrote an article on Sportsnet.ca today just addressing this very issue and covered it very well. He covered all the moves. I don't have a gut feel right now because I keep thinking of what were the Jays when Alex Anthopoulos made all those deals? Were they 50 and 50 when he brought in Tulowitzki?
Yeah, I don't remember that, but they were not like awesome. Like they were.
No, they were not very good. And the players he gave up. I mean, they were Jose Reyes and Jeff Hoffman, who turned out to be.
He had some quality youth at the minor league level that he could do some things.
Yeah, and
with.
the Jays' issue right now is their 3 top pitching prospects are hurt.
Yeah,
so that the Jays are playing with a weaker hand. I don't know. My gut says that they're probably. My gut says they're going to do something with Vladdy or Bo. And other than that, I don't know. And I think depending on what they get for those two, will tell you, or for one of those two, will tell you. I know that sounds probably more convoluted than I'm making it than it should be, and I'd really rather answer this question after the next 9 games are over. I think we'll have a better handle then.
5 and 4.
My gut is that the path hasn't been chosen yet, but the Jays have made some hotel bookings on the road to being sellers.
There you go. How about that? Boy,
the path hasn't been chosen. The path has not been chosen. But they've got to see if this is the road to be a buyer.
Say it,
and
dude.
this is the road to be a seller. They're right here in the middle.
Wow.
But they've reserved rooms on the road to be a seller.
Boy, you talking about shoveling it? Right there, it was. Holy moly!
Trying to put it in a certain.
I mean, I just at the bottom. Does the offense look? You think realistically it can look better? That's what you got to ask yourself. Has it looked better? I mean, it's been a pretty big sample size of this.
Yeah. But you know what? I also think
to go on a run, they got to score more runs.
I think Bo Bichette can get back to doing what Bo Bichette has done, and to me, that will tell the tale. That will tell the tale here. I mean, Justin Turner's going to do Justin Turner things. Vladdy, I think this is probably we're going to see Vladdy continuing in the gradual incline. I need to see what Bo does.
Oh, man.
You ever see any top hats? I should have had a top hat on and white gloves.
Well, so I could say something mean to you, but I'm not going to. It's Friday.
7:07 is the first pitch tonight. Blair and Barker will do Blue Jays talk after the game. We'll be back Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the baseball.